look at what's in front of me, don't focus on the other things. I know that if I'm struggling, that only leads to a job for me. And I want and need something that could challenge me, build up all my calluses, push through all their callousness. Becoming reckless, I'm ambitious and I'm restless, yeah. Was an apprentice but possessed a different engine, so I asked a lot of questions and I learned a lot of lessons, yeah. Got different weapons and I worked on my direction, yeah. We gon' hike through the flame, we gon' die with a name. We gon' fight through the pain, we gon' rise up and change. We gon' strive to make gains, we don't hide from the blame. We take pride when we train, we gon' rise up and change. We gon' hike through the flame, we gon' die with a name. We gon' fight through the pain, we gon' rise up and change. We gon' strive to make gains, we don't hide from the pain. We take pride when we train, we gon' rise up and change. When I make that bet, got goals in my mind that I want real bad, so I work and strive to get all of that.
Welcome to Cap Space Jam Playoff Edition, first round edition, first out of the next. I believe we're going to go 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks in a row, because we may have something else planned. Some of the members in the league already know what I'm talking about, but definitely I'm going to be streaming every week for the next 3 weeks until the conclusion of the NBA fantasy basketball playoffs for our league. So today I'm going to keep it real simple. We're going to look at the past season. We pretty much looked up last week and we knew what the playoff matchups were going to be. But we're going to still look at every team, seeing what went wrong, what went right, and looking at the outlook moving forward for each team. So I'm going to keep it real simple. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today. So we're going to go ahead and share this screen. We're going to look at from the lowest to greatest teams of the past season. So as you can see, we have a list of every team. We're going to start all the way at the bottom. The return of the Heatles. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not going to put the blame on Martin, who's the current owner. Obviously, we had Kenny and Eric earlier on in the year. Schedules sometimes don't work out, so there's nothing personal, obviously. But yeah, this team really needed some tender love and care. Of course, Ben Simmons didn't do the team any favors. He's become essentially irrelevant this fantasy season. Hopefully, he can bounce back next year. James Wiseman was irrelevant for the better part of the year, but he's showing the ability to put up some numbers in Detroit. We'll see if that continues to move forward for next year. But 0-20, lineups were never really set. I think they could have definitely won more than one game at least if there was consistency. But as you can see, there's a lot of holes on this team, of course. You do have Luka Doncic at the top. I mean, as long as you have him, that's the team you want to start with. That's the player you want to start with on any team. So moving forward, we'll see what happens as we can look into the doc here. Let's see what pending free agents, I can't tell today. You see we have 5 free agents pending and $29 million for Martin to play with. So he has some flexibility. He might be able to land a couple of key pieces and do a little bit better, things to surround Luka Doncic with. And, James Wiseman, we'll see what he does. I really feel like Detroit is a better fit for him. He's been putting up some good numbers, at least recently at the time of this recording. But we'll see. Probably still a ways from a championship, but a move or two here and there could potentially put Martin's team at least somewhat in the mix as opposed to where it's at now and where it's been. Again, not his fault, obviously. But yeah, so this is the team, of course, he was working with. All right, so now we're going to go back and see the rest of these teams. Quickly, we're going to go to Freaks and Geeks. I get mixed between these two because you can see right above is Greek in the sheets. So this is Davis. His first fantasy basketball season, and he's not a big fantasy player as far as I know. I believe he mentioned. So I'm not going to go too hard on him. He does have some potential with this team. Of course, anytime you got Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're in good shape. It is hard to believe that teams featuring both Giannis Antetokounmpo and Luka Doncic, which, by the way, these two teams were top drafters. Like they had two top 3 picks in the first round of the NBA draft that we did early on in the year, and they're both at the bottom right now. Um, but yeah, there is Giannis Antetokounmpo. I do think Sengun is a good player. Of course, he got Ingram. It all comes down to health with this squad. Clarkson's still good, but they're gonna have to make some moves moving forward. Let's go ahead and check out the doc for Davis's team. I believe he's right up here. So at least there's not a lot of really like free agent holes, but he could kind of take the year off as far as the offseason goes. But he might want to clear a spot or two to add to what he has here. If healthy, there is potential here. Again, long way to go before reaching a championship, but there is a foundation to build upon with Giannis and Ingram on the squad. So moving forward, and I'm sorry guys, I've been up all night, so I did not want to miss the show. So if I stutter my words a lot, it's because I have been up for literally maybe 26 hours. Okay. Yeah. So moving forward, we're going to go back here. And by the way, there's Tobias Harris too. I didn't even catch that. So there's some pieces there. Now we're going to go to Greek in the Sheets, which is Brian's team. Brian's team, not Chris and Brian's team, just his own. Of course, he took over for an owner early on in the year. This team does have potential as well. It's very top heavy. Scotty Barnes, you can only imagine, is going to get better and better. There's Bradley Beal, Chris Boucher. Of course, again, this season didn't go well. Needed some tender loving care. So we'll see what Brian does with him moving forward. Emmanuel quickly is my dog, obviously, as a Knicks fan. This team really isn't that bad at all, especially look at Karl Anthony Towns. I expect this team to win a lot more games than 3 next year, maybe even reach the playoffs, depending on moves Brian makes. Let's check out the team. There's only one free agency slot. There is a negative $9 million balance heading into the offseason. However, the salary cap will increase depending on how much the league increases. So Brian might be able to make at least one move to add, or maybe he can just go ahead and just draft someone to this equation here. But not a bad team as is. Just has to be consistent in terms of setting lineups and just being active overall. So we're going to move forward here. And of course, like I said, he is 3-17, as you can see there. Then we have Chris's team, which I acquired his first round draft pick early on in the year. I was hoping he was going to land me Victor Wembanyama. The team wasn't doing well at the time. But Chris kicked Brian off, basically, essentially. And he said, you know what? I'm taking control of this team. They won 4 games, which doesn't seem like a lot when you consider where they were early on in the year. Like I said, took me right out of the race for Victor Wembanyama, even though I'm probably going to try to make a trade. We'll get into that later. But, okay, not much to look at on the team right now because of so many trades that were made over the course of the year. The most important thing to look at here, I'm going to go straight to the doc, as we mentioned before. Again, nothing here except look at all these pending free agency slots. $64 million to spend plus, maybe more. There is some money that's going to be going to Gary as part of a deal that they made at the end of the year. Again, nothing on the roster right now, but I'm going to go ahead and just go to the pick stash right here. I thought I did my part in acquiring some draft picks early on in the year. But as you can see, he has stacked up the picks. He's basically the Oklahoma City Thunder with this team. So lots of flexibility. And, of course, he also picked up some bidding money, which will be used on free agents. We'll get into more of that when that time comes around. But, bidding money is a virtue, unless you're David. David does not like bidding money in any fantasy league that we've done with bidding money. He likes trading it away. But he gets what he wants, and I mean, he always does well, so I guess he's doing the right thing. Anyway, this is Chris's time, and I'm talking about David. But I'm going to not say nothing else about Chris. I'm going to let him say it. He left me a statement. He said, at the start of the season, I had playoff expectations for my franchise. However, it didn't pan out that way. And there was a rocky point in the season where the franchise even suffered a change in management. It was at that point I had to evaluate the team's future with its current roster capital and future draft capital. As a result, I made the decision to hit the reset button and trade all the tradable assets I had in exchange for the future of the team. I hate that it's going to take a year or two to compete, but I'm very excited for the future of this franchise. I think he said that well. That's basically what he's looking at. He's looking at potentially 2 years. I don't think he's going to be able to switch it in 1 year. But he has plenty of assets. Maybe he could realistically trade some of those picks and land a bigger piece to go with whatever he drafts and whatever happens, in free agency for him. So, yeah, maybe a year or two and he'll be back in business. But moving forward, we have Austin's team. I think this is a casualty of just running into some personal, just issues where you weren't able to really set the lineup too much. Of course, there's been injury issues. Jamal Murray has been healthier this year, but of course he's coming back from an injury, so he's missed quite a handful of games. Klay Thompson has been up and down all year. Josh Giddey is fine, of course. He's been doing great. But overall, there's not been a lot of consistency in terms of the team. Of course, there's Anthony Edwards. I do think this team could do something next year. I thought they could do something this year, too. I thought they would at least be a playoff team. There are some club options, so he may need to potentially cut somebody or trade away if he wants to add on to what he has, or he can just stand put and wait to the 2024 season. This $41 million should definitely become something like $50 million, if not that, after you consider the cap increase for the free agents that he has pending there. But we'll see what he does. Austin put together a pretty good team. He knows what he's doing in terms of fantasy sports, so I do trust that he will do well when the time comes. So moving forward, we have Devin's team. My man Devin, he was pretty active overall. He's a busy person. I know that for a fact. But he put up some really good points, as you can see, 19,000 points. 967 a week. So he did his part. But of course, he has Anthony Davis, who hasn't been completely healthy. Although when he has been healthy, he's been a monster. In the games that he's played game for game, arguably the best. Of course, Steph Curry missed a ton of time. There hasn't been a lot of consistency. Jaylen Brown missed a couple games here and there. But next year, he should be a problem in a sense. And we're going to look at the team and the doc real quick. I just want to see where he is at free agency-wise. One free agent, of course, negative $23 million. There will be a cap increase, but he may need to make a move or two to get back into the positives in terms of cap space, because he is in a cap space jam. That's right. That is basically my "We Are the Walking Dead" moment on this show. Okay, so we're gonna go back here. Dev, hopefully you do better next year. Of course, 8-12, probably not what he wanted to do. And now this one kind of hurts for me because I really had higher hopes for this team. But of course, injuries are a thing, and injuries happen, and they kind of they definitely took Ronnie out of it for a period of time. He could have definitely used guys like Kate Cunningham. Of course, Paul George is in and out on a regular basis on the year. But yeah, I mean, I still think the future is bright. And of course, it is depending on health when it comes to Ronnie. And let's look at him in the doc here. But he is set up to add on to what he has here. There are some slots to fill the free agency wise. $32 million heading into the free agency market. So he might be able to pick up a couple of pieces. And, again, there's always the wild card round. So he could also add that way. So Ronnie should still be in a pretty good position. Again, and it's for everybody, not just us, but it really depends, not just him, but it depends on health more than anything else, of course. So we're going to go back here and we're going to keep it moving. We're going to go to Logan's team here. Logan, I think similar to Austin, not to a big degree, but there was some weeks where the lineups maybe weren't set. But the biggest thing here, and he still put up some good numbers. I'm not going to say he was completely inactive. He was pretty active. There was LaMelo Ball, who was injured most of the year and definitely was going to miss the rest of the year. Russell Westbrook has been on a roller coaster for the better part of the past 2 years. Even though he put up pretty strong numbers towards the end, I don't think that was enough. Cam Reddish could be a huge steal. I mean, he was putting up some really good numbers ever since he got traded from the Knicks. So the future is bright here, but we're just gonna have to see more from him. Let's see what he does. Let's look at his team in the dock. Moving down here. Where is Logan? Let's see. He's hiding in this dock. There he goes. Okay. Yeah, so only 2 free agency slots and likely over $20 million to spend heading into the free agency market. So he's in a good position to add a piece or two or maybe draft a piece or two. And should be in the mix to potentially make a playoff spot. But if he wants to compete for a championship, he might want to pull off something bigger. But if he wants to retain somebody like Cam Reddish, I would definitely consider that. If not, he will be coming to a new team. And what team is that? I'll tell you right now. That team is my team. I'm pretending this is the Knicks. And you know what? It was the Knicks of last year. I had hopes of potentially making the playoffs, and it just didn't work out. So early on in the year, I pretty much gave up in a sense, maybe early, but it was kind of apparent that I wasn't going to win a championship, which for me, it's championship or bust. So I ended up trading away Kyrie Irving, Devin Booker, Jabari Smith. I brought in future pieces like Jaden Ivey, Banchero. I even got Trae Young in a deal with Chris. So I'm pretty confident about the future of my team moving forward. And you've seen players like Robert Williams, who's been hurt. I'm hoping he could be healthy next year. But Jaden Ivey is going to continue to improve, I believe. Quentin Grimes has shown potential. RJ Barrett's been inconsistent, but I still believe, and he still has put up numbers, and I still believe he'll do even better next year. You got Jeremy Sochan. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but he put up some numbers. Mark Williams reclaimed the center position after the Hornets traded away Mason Plumlee, and he's putting up huge numbers. So I like the future of my team moving forward. And even with all those trades, I really intended to rebuild and go into a rebuild mode really quick. And I still was able to pick up 9 wins. So I'm pretty happy with that. But actually, it's 10-10. I thought I went 9-9, so I must have picked up a win at the last minute, the last game of the season. So 10-10. Could I do better? Absolutely, and I do expect to do better. I can only speak for myself in that sense. I claim to be the 2024 Cap Space Jam champion, and we're going to see that happen pretty soon. So we're going to go to Ansel Harden right now, which is, of course, Tim's team, which this team has been strong all year. 24,000 points, 24,544 points, 1,227 per week. I mean, the team's got, of course, the Joker. Anytime you got the Joker on there, you got James Harden, DeMar DeRozan. So when you take a good team like this and you take somebody that's going to be active and set their lineups, this is the type of results you get. 15-5, best in the league, no, but is he in the mix to potentially win a championship? We're going to go ahead and see in a little bit. So I just realized, so we're into the playoff team. So I'm going to stop right here. We're going to look into the matchups now. We'll review those teams, their entirety at the end of the year if any of them are eliminated. So we're going to go ahead and look at the matchups. So since I was talking about Mr. Tim, this is a highly anticipated matchup here for me. Zach he was on this show 2 weeks ago. He believes he's going to win this championship. He did beat Brad, which was a huge W. And he's went 14-6 on the season. He's 5th against the 15-5 Tim. Now, I don't know if Zach has set his lineups moving forward on the daily or if he set it for the week. Right now, he's projected to lose, which, again, take this with a grain of salt. It's not always correct, obviously. He's projected to lose against Tim. And I want to predict each game here. This really could be changed up in an instant, depending what somebody like Chris Middleton does. And Karis LeVert has been non-existent at times. Zach better be careful, okay? Because you got a team with James Harden, DeMar DeRozan, and he's going to be active, and of course the Joker. So if you're Zach, you really can't afford any injuries. You can't really afford players to miss games or have off games. I'm inclined to believe that Zach will win just because he is hell-bent, and I believe he really feels in his heart that he is going to win. Oh man, Zach, it's just you understand, right? Like, look, come on, man. Drew Holiday is putting up numbers. He's your guy from the Bucks, and your guy Chris Middleton has been starting to put up numbers. But do you trust him for the whole week? Ah, man, and of course Josh Hart, my guy over here. This is a tough matchup. This might be the toughest matchup of the week. Um, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give the edge to Zach. Why? You know, you have Julius Randle, Halliburton's putting up crazy numbers. Like, there's this team top to bottom. There is a bit of a safety net to fall back on. Now, Tim's team, like, I'm like at a 48-52% split. 48% tells me Tim's going to win. It's just very top heavy over here. So he also can't really afford a star player to have off game or two. Injuries could unwind either of these teams. I'm going to give the slight edge to Zach, but I would not be shocked at all if Tim wins. I mean, he is projected to win, and he's leading slightly right now. But we'll see what happens on the daily with these teams. I think it's going to be tough, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to Zach because I feel like his season has to end in a matchup with somebody I'll talk about in a little bit. Whether or not he wins that game remains to be seen. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at the rest of the matchups here, and we'll take that brief look at my team as we do it. The guy I just was talking about, it might end with Brad, okay? And I believe if Brad wins and holds on against Ronnie, which I do expect that he might, that he will, that's where that's going to be a huge matchup right there. Okay, but moving forward, I do want to look at this. Look, Ronnie is not out of it by any means. He could realistically pull off an upset, but it just depends. He has to have a really big week. Now, I did speak to Brad, and he did talk about how, you know, his team is a little bit riddled with injuries right now. Losing Kevin Durant doesn't help his case, but he still has, you know, SGA. You got Mobley, Porzingis. You know, there's still a bit of a safety net to even hold off losing somebody like Kevin Durant, and of course Damian Lillard being day to day. He's gonna have to hope that he comes back at least for the next series. Ronnie could pull off the upset here, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Brad just because he's been 19-1. He's found ways to win. And it's quite a change of events early on in the year. Brad, you know, was Ronnie's pick. Ronnie was talking about the team that he feared the most, and he is facing his fears head on in the first round of the matchup. So shout out to Ron for picking, you know, his guy. And then also for me, I'm the one that picked Ronnie early on. And now I am picking Brad as well. Brad has put on a crazy good season, regardless of how this ends. 19-1. He also did want to just tell me, you know, what he thought about heading into this playoffs. He really thinks Tim can make a run, which, again, I believe so too. If he can knock off Zach, you know, at that point, the momentum's with him. But he did say that David's team was his favorite to win in the preseason and still is his favorite. And we're going to get into David's team right now. So thank you, Brad, for leaving those words. And, of course, Brad is the humble one here. Zach has claimed himself champion. So this is like the perfect face versus heel WWE matchup. It's going to be great if it happens. We'll see. But, again, you got to beat Tim first. And, you know, if this is anything to go off of, Zach is in a lot of trouble. And not to mention the record. I mean, you know, I know early on was a different team for Zach, but it's not sold. It's not sold. You've got to prove it. Okay. So now, next one. We got two guys who've been pretty quiet in the chat, but they've been silent killers. I mean, John and, you know, the Sports Page Vlog, they both just do what they got to do. They both have won a lot of games. 13-7 for John. I remember early on in the year, he had some tough matchups where he put up some pretty big numbers and just fell short. But he's in the playoffs, like I figured he would be. And you got the Sports Page Blog, which very consistent all year, 16-4, pretty dominant. Won most of the matchups, pretty much only losing to some of the bigger teams on the list. Has as good a chance as anyone to make a run in the finals, especially, you know. And the thing is, the team is not crazy overpowered. There is pieces like Joel Embiid and Adebayo, great pieces. But this really comes down to just being consistent with setting the lineups more than anything else, I would say, in addition to having the talent on both sides, by the way, on both sides. We got Brunson, who's been a superstar from the Knicks. Jimmy Butler. Like, there's not. Tatum is an MVP candidate. So either way, they both have some great players. Really good matchup, underrated teams. I would not be shocked to see either of these guys in the finals, although I'm probably not going to pick it now for this week. I am going to give the run to the Sports Page blog. I just feel like pieces here just kind of overpower this one a little bit, especially maybe with the scheduling. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to the Sports Page blog for this week, but we'll see what happens. Again, I would not be shocked if John picked him to win. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the matchup here. I don't know what just happened. Okay, here we go. And then the final one, we got David versus Gary, which who would have thought? Gary in his first fantasy season, along with his friend Nicholas, making the playoffs. So big ups to Gary, because he wasn't really into fantasy sports at all. So to make it to the playoffs at this point, with the injuries that he had to withstand with LeBron James and Zion going down, especially at this time of the year, it's really tough. He's running into a buzzsaw with with David, who David's had a tough team from the get-go, and I also saw David as one of the more scarier teams in the league. David could easily pull off a win, like Brad said. It's really going to come down to health, as it does for everybody. But he's more or less healthy. And if he is able to get Ja Morant back, especially by the second round, if he makes it there, David is in play to win the finals. He is 18-2. He has the second, he was the second seed. So he's not an underdog by any means. He should be seen as a major threat. I'm going to give David the win here, but I got to give some love to Gary, because he really, he performed. He performed. Like, we're going to keep that in mind, that overperformance, for future episodes. Like I said, I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time. The next week's episode will be a lot shorter, and it'll allow me to be a little more in-depth with each matchup. But I wanted to get everybody covered in a sense. It's a snowy day over here. How's it going where you guys are? Tired. I spent the whole night in and out of the hospital for family members and stuff. So everybody's fine, but the whole point is I was there all night. So sorry if I slurred my words, if I appear tired, if I sound out of it, I am. But I wanted to make sure to bring this episode, because we're going to do this every week. Next week, I'll be much more rested. I'll have monsters, and we're going to be great. And I also have an announcement next week, which some of the members already know, but I'll give it a more formal announcement next week, and you guys will see that. Thank you very much for watching the show here, Cap Space Jam. I'm not sure what number this is. It doesn't matter. If you're watching this on the Athletes Hub, of course, check out Free Baseball, which is every single Wednesday around 9 o'clock. Sometimes I am there. And of course, we have Deep Takes from 3. It's potentially going to return this upcoming Monday, and I'll be there, of course. If you're watching this on the Facebook page, Athletic Anomaly, always keep in tap. I'm always going to post content there, articles and stuff. More articles to come. I have a content, my annual free agent predictions a year in advance for the MLB. That's coming really soon. So that's about it. I don't really have much else to say, guys. I appreciate you guys for watching, and have a good one. And let's play that outro. I know you guys like that song. Goodbye.
I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking